And another thing that's in the news, what's going on in Europe, is you see that Putin and Trump had a 2-hour phone call. I did think it was very crass. Putin he was on conference, he was on a stage, and the announcer told him, was like, "Oh, don't you have a call right now?" And he's like, "Oh, he can wait." So Trump waited an extra hour. Russia's like falling apart right now. And so many people want to tell me like, Russia's doing amazing. He's so savvy and smart. The economy's going. It's like, no, 22%. You don't change bond rates. 22% interest are there. Gazprom just announced they're losing $13 billion. This is their cash cow for funding this war. Their number one export is missiles, which they don't sell. This is a country hemorrhaging economically, but has found now favor in the U.S. So they've come to a compromise, and this compromise is a ceasefire of which they will stop attacking each other's infrastructure. They've actually done this a couple of times and never been able to keep it. First, they weren't able to keep it again. So now they're creating a list of stuff they'll agree to. But what's interesting is this brings up the topic of NATO. We've had Trump say this before. We have had now Vance step in and say it, that NATO, like Europe, needs to step up and spend 5% of their GDP to really protect the country at all, that they basically are claiming they're free riders and that it's on the US's dime. And my only contra argument to that is that NATO is a U.S. monopoly. The U.S. supplies 45%, Australia being one, we supply 45% of all the arms in the world. And most of everything we give to, especially as war credits, anywhere we give war credits, we're selling at 3 to 4 times the cost for used and secondhand goods. So we're charging book value, and that is the monopoly price. We're a monopoly taker, so we get a great price. We've benefited ourselves economically because those are all U.S.-based businesses. France is now the world's second largest arms dealer, basically. And a lot of that has been because of our restrictive sales of arms, and so France has now had to step up. Russia has lost the number 2 seat because they're now trying to be an importer.
They've got to use their own.
Yeah,
they've got to
exactly.
smoke their own for a change. Yeah.
So they're out. So it really brings up this question for NATO. Is NATO spending 5% of their GDP a good thing, or is this a bad thing? What's your take?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to bring it back personally to Australia too, because we've been increasing our military budget a lot at the bequest of America. And traditionally Australia has been a defensive posture militarily because we know that we're so far away from everywhere else.
Going up in Sydney, right?
We've
a ship.
Entered an AUKUS agreement, which will give us nuclear-powered submarines in the future. But even before that, we've already got 77 F-35s. What I'm saying is we used to have a defensive posture where we could defend certain parts of our land against a prolonged invasion, because it's very hard for a country to keep supply lines open across the ocean. But we've changed in recent history, and I'm saying like only the last 4 or 5 years, and now we have a forward posture. We actually, all of our weapon systems, instead of being used to defend Australia from invasion, all of our weapon systems are now for telling other people in Southeast Asia what to do. So we're becoming the world police on behalf of America, and I think that's what America has always wanted NATO
Mostly
to
aimed
do.
at its cousin. Australia's our... Oh.
But I think America doesn't realize how close relations we have with China. We, at the heart of us, we're probably even more of a communist country than a capitalist country. Yes, we fought with you in wars for our freedoms, but not freedoms for America to tell us what to do and how to think and what to believe. I think America's going to get some pushback at some point, especially because we don't have a government in Australia anymore. We don't have an opposition party. We're about to have a federal election, and both of our politicians, they're both exactly the same. They're both World Economic Forum fanboys. They want to do whatever Kamala Harris wanted to do, but they haven't called it yet. They're going to name a date anytime soon. So it's going to be this year. It's going to be very soon. The candidates are already campaigning.
Gunning for it.
Yeah. One of the new campaign parties here, one of the federal parties here owned by one of our biggest billionaires is called Trumpets of Freedom. That's the actual political party.
No.
Are you kidding me?
Oh my goodness.
It is insane here, bro. It is insane. But I blame, it's America, right? Everything is American influence. The craziness in Australia is American born. I'm not saying that Australian doesn't have its own version of craziness. I'm just saying that that's why we also have a close relationship with China, because we don't want to be America.
No, I mean, I can relate with that. I think it brings up the point of arms dealings with the U.S. I mean, because one of the benefits, again, it's like, when you go to a checkout and you buy like a wrench or something or a drill, and they say, hey, do you want to buy the extended warranty? And it's a bogus warranty. You buy it and really, it means you got to pay more, but then they're going to charge you to service it later. Same thing. So if you sell arms, you end up selling this guaranteed warranty, which is actually a service contract. So you want all of your friends to have your equipment because it guarantees long-term. But one really noticed arms dealer is Iran. Iran has started selling a lot of Shahed drones. They're flying over Ukraine on an average of like 70 a night. In fact, right now as we speak, there's something like 150 Shahed drones flying over Ukraine all over civilian targets, trying to knock out as much as they can before they actually come to the ceasefire. So Iran increasing its level in the arms dealer, and North Korea has now actually sent troops. And so mercenaries are now, in Russia fighting this the same. So this could leave even Australia, where, they're now left to like, okay, we get war credits from the U.S. So if they're going to give it to us, we'll take it. So the U.S. is trying to do this because they want to have, a military presence, for China in Australia. But Australia could easily also say, okay, well, we like it, but we're also going to look at some alternative weapons, which again hurts the U.S.'s, ability to kind of stay that strong up. But you bring up a great point in that, countries can really, they're in different situations everywhere.
Yeah. My opinion's not the Australian opinion for sure. I'm trying to save these people too.
Are they, now that the U.S. has pulled out of support, basically this whiplash policy for Ukraine and NATO and hostile conversations about Canada, and then Panama discussions, Greenland, do all of those, how does that resonate with the Australian? Do they see it as, okay, well, we want to be a partner, but can we trust a partner?
Honestly,
we're too far away for that to impact us.
Honestly, the globe is keeping us stressed out about our own problems down here. So I think this is my conspiracy mind here again, right? They're not talking about this in the media here because they won't, because the media is controlled. And I don't see many commentators catching on to what's going on. They see the problem, but they don't do any kind of thinking about it. So the problem is that we had Chinese warships just go around Australia. Now, the problem is we didn't know about it. We found out about it from a commercial airliner flying over. The Prime Minister did a press conference pretending that he did know about it, and then got busted for not actually knowing about it, and again, lying to the Australian people. So it's very comical. It is. But what I'm saying is I believe that was a show.
Wait, I have the same experience with my kids. There's like a movie and there's like some kind of, scene that's beyond me and I don't get it. Yeah. And then they're laughing and they'll say like some word and I'll be like, oh yeah.
That's our Prime Minister. That is the Australian Prime Minister, 100%. But so my take on it is I think that's probably America letting Australia know, well, can you go it alone?
They didn't give any warning.
I think the America knows exactly what China's doing.
So that was sort of a fire across the bow.
That was, okay, Australia, you're so big. Let's see how you go if we turn the lights out for a minute.
I think Greenland's actually
people don't
bigger
catch
than
on to
Australia
it.
now, right? Not that it's growing.
No.
No? Or just I do now.
No, Australia's a continent.
It is its own continent island, right? I know it's the same size as the continental US. That's why.
What you're talking about is, so most maps that we have are flat. And so the way you look at the Earth, you would think that the equator on those maps falls right in the middle of everything, but it doesn't. It actually falls at the lower. So basically, most of the world lives on top of the world. Most of Europe and America and everything lives on top of the world. And Australia and Africa and South America, they're actually in the middle of the world. And then there's a lot of ocean and then Antarctica, right? So when they put that on a world map, they just show you the top 2/3 of the world map and they stretch everything out. It makes the things up the very top look 3 times bigger, and it makes the stuff in the middle look half as big. Have you
Well,
seen
this is
the
the
UN
problem.
map?
Africa, Russia looks big, but then Africa always looks small.
If you look at the UN map, which is actually a circle instead of a square or a rectangle, it's a circle, and so that's more proportionate. And then you see Europe looks a lot smaller on that map. Australia looks a lot bigger than everything else on that map.
Do you know what the biggest problem would be if Canada were to vote to be part of the U.S.? It would be very dangerous for Americans to travel. I mean, we get away with having the Canadian patch.
It's a
There's
buffer
only
zone.
35 million Canadians, but there's probably about 100 million traveling Canadians at any given time, and they're all Americans.
Yeah, I feel like everyone knows that Canada is America's human shield.
Oh, I'm Canadian. Nobody knows that Canadians they say the word house in the boat, and so no one else can spot it but Americans, so we feel pretty safe.
Yeah, I think you guys are going to be a little bit safer now that somebody's paying attention to the southern border.
So you think they're paying attention to the southern border now?
I think they're paying more attention for sure.
I did see events are less deported.
You know, when the federal government
people
stops trying to fight Texas to stop people from coming in, I think that's the move forward.
Here's Texas's opinion on the border. We were all in favor of we were like, yes, we need troops on the border. We need more protection on the border. People are crossing this border like crazy, and they're mixing their ideas with us, and they're mixing, sometimes even their food and their culture. They're not acclimating and integrating very well. We were all just shocked to find out everybody else was talking about the southern border. We were talking about the northern border. But it is true. I did see deportations. Biden actually has more deportations at this point in office than Trump does now. But but events at the border are astronomically low.
Closed down some of the doors. There's less people coming in now.
If you look at 2008, you also saw immigration go to its lowest. Other than, I know Trump likes to take credit for COVID, but every border was closed everywhere. But if you look at 2008 is a better one because you see recessions bring less people across the border. And right now we are starting to enter, unemployment is starting to tick up, but we still have a shortage. The events definitely have to do with a sitting president has done something, but we probably would see a shorter amount in and of itself anyway.
I'm really starting to wonder about how they do the numbers sometimes, though. And I imagine it's the same people that did the numbers for COVID, right? Because they got everything right. But these numbers, we just had interest rates drop for the first time in years, right?
In Australia,
we've got record employment, I mean. But I don't believe it. I believe they've come up with new ways of. So there's new columns now. So instead of 10 years ago, everything would have been categorized as unemployment, but now we have self-employed unemployment. Now we have, there's all these different categories which then take you away from the unemployment, and they're doing that to make so they can give themselves a pat on the back and say we're running the country good. But if you look at the economic signs, they're not doing the right thing at all. Everything's costing more. No one can get enough work to pay for their food or houses. So to me,
well, let me break that down. I mean, are you
saying certain things?
Are you saying that you feel that economic indicators are being, echoed, but then the actual people are seeing prices go up, housing is expensive, there are actually fewer jobs?
This is how easy it is. So if you want people to think inflation is out of control, show them the price of eggs. If you want people to think inflation doesn't exist, sell them a brand new TV.
Because they don't know what TV's worth.
What I'm saying is when they're going through the data and they're selecting the percentage increases, right? So technology saves a lot of inflation because technology gets cheaper. But everything else gets...
Rent's an easy one because you pay rent every month. So you see its prices go up. How many people ever see rent go down?
Rents are going up, bro. Everything's going up.
And that's the same here. So I don't see how...
now that you've got interest rates going down, they're going to say, well, the average homeowner is now paying less for housing, but the renters are actually paying more, but they'll focus on the homeowners in the next market data release.
I can't say because I don't know Australia. I don't read this. I don't stay up to date with the Australian stuff. The
You don't think
U.S.
that's the same thing that's happening in America?
Here's what I mean is that I actually read the beige book when it comes out. So I will watch the Federal Reserve meetings. And so I don't necessarily follow the news much. I mean, Twitter is definitely my main source of trolling. So I'll follow what people will say. And yes, they run with the most false news. Like right now, they're like, look, already we're seeing interest rates are down, egg prices are down, deportations are up. Everything I voted for, I got. And I'm like, okay, except for the fact that right now it's becoming harder to get a job and prices of everything else are going up. It's like, so you're really not giving a fair presentation.
Did you just say that employment's looking good?
No, what I mean is that is what people on Twitter like to echo, but that doesn't mean that's what the official data came out to say. And so I do look more to the data to say, okay, I have to assess this my own, looking at like, all right, we have more people looking for a job. So this is part of why unemployment is going up. More people are looking for a job. And those who are looking for a job are now finding it slightly harder. And then the ones who do have a job are no longer having a single job. They're having 2 or 3 jobs at some time.
100%.
If you ask me, you tell that story.
So they look at the job creation numbers, but it's not really more people entering the workforce. It's just they're having to take on more jobs.
Yep.
I'm not saying that they're lying. I'm saying that, they're choosing ways to analyze the data to present a certain
politically saw President Trump, and I guess it wasn't a State of the Union because he just got elected, but it was an official address to the Senate, but it's basically a State of the Union address. And he got up there and echoed many times like, we have so many people who are 130 in the records. We have so many people who are 125 so all of those were in the record, but it turns out none of them were actually getting any Social Security. So what they were presenting is that we found all these savings. Look how inefficient Biden was. We found all these savings, but in reality, they didn't find any savings. They wasted all of our time. And it's just as hard to find Social Security fraud as it was for Biden, as it was for Bush, as it was for Obama. I honestly do not think we're ever going to be able to find $1 trillion in savings from just stopping fraud. I wish we could. Nobody wants fraud to exist. Nobody wants to be wasting our money. I just think it's very hard to find it. And if you lay off 4,000 IRS people whose job it is to go find them, I also don't think you're going to have any more tools to do it. But the other part that brings this all back in is I definitely do not think we are going to be able to raise $1 trillion from selling gold card. I don't know. I want to say gold card, green cards, but they're not. They're gold card residencies. I mean, if you sell them I was doing a little math trying to look at and find out, okay, if Google is right, there's an estimated 620,000 people on the planet who are essentially quote unquote millionaires, right? And then if you take of those, how many have a disposable income that could afford to spend $5 million to want to come here, right? And now you're looking at something in the realm of around 300,000. So they have, and that's like 25 million or over, right? So there's like 300,000. And then you got to say of them, how many are already Americans? And so now you're down to like 80,000. So of 80,000 people in the planet who might come here, who could afford to, disposable income, that means you need 20,000 of them. So 25% in order to raise $1 trillion. I just don't see, I mean, I'll be honest, if they raise 50 million, I will be impressed. $1 trillion off of the gold card.
So I didn't hear you say that that's a bad idea. I just hear you say that you don't think it's going to make that much money. So I think part of the problem is that, like, if Trump does anything, Americans have been brainwashed or taught to like see what's wrong about anything that he says or does. But I actually think it's brilliant. I think it's closer to what America originally did after the War of Independence, when America was actually a thriving nation. They were trying to get the best and brightest to come to America and to be a part of it. And I think that's what this encourages to do. Even if he doesn't get that many people in, the type of people he's going to get in are a lot better than the people that are sitting there on a visa lotto to come into America. That is going to be a strain on your economy. The strain You already got a growing population anyway that you got to feed. So at least bringing over people that can feed themselves, I think, is a good start. Then they're going to bring, if they can afford that, they're going to bring their money and industry into the economy. So there's this massive carry-on effect. But what it's doing is actually encouraging the best and brightest and most powerful to come to America. So I think it's actually a brilliant idea.
Now, they have what's called the EB-5 program already. And that is where you can come here.
If you invest over $1 million in a company, you can already get
500,000 state fund. Yeah. It's not run very well. This gives you allowance to get a green card. So
I thought this was citizenship, though. I thought it was selling citizenship, or is it just permanent residency?
I mean, I don't know if it is actual citizenship. I thought it was just residency in a similar fashion, but you get all the same rights. Now, one of them is like, if you can afford $5 million and you really want to come here and you just hate your country, and you want to pay the higher American tax, I don't know if these are the best and brightest people. This sounds like Russian oligarchs trying to find a place to hide. So that's where I'm like, I don't know if these are the best and brightest people that would, want to lock in this, because you're telling me that the rest of them, I mean, I could go anywhere right now. Now I'll say I'm an American, but even as a US, if if you have a net worth of 25 million, I guarantee you could come here and live for a good amount of time, and travel back and forth, and you probably still like your home country. And so what would want you to try to get a green card? You want a green card.
All of the things that gives you confidence in your markets are the reasons why people would do that. I don't think you realize how many people are bound by their citizenship of birth. Look at Australia. A part of the problem here, a lot of these people that are paying these ridiculous house prices, most of my neighbors here, these houses here are $6, $7, $10 million houses here. Why are they spending $10 million to live here? Like they can live at any beach in America, have a much better lifestyle, have all the toys in the world, be able to travel the world with. You could spend $2 million of that house in America, buy a mansion on the beach, use the other $7 million to spend the rest of your life traveling around the world as an American citizen, but they can't do that because they don't have American citizenship. So they're stuck here. All of their gold is stuck in this country. They can't get it anywhere else. Trump is offering people like these people. These people don't care about money anyway. They're living in a $10 million house and driving a car they can't afford without kids. They don't care about kids. They're just here to party on the beach all day. But it's expensive to party in Australia. And that person, if he could get citizenship in America for $5 million, $10 million, he would pay for it in a second. Let 20,000 Australians know that for $5 million they become American citizens. They could just sell their houses and go over there, bro. They would do it in a second.
You heard it here.
And that's just Australia. I imagine every other country in the world is so obsessed with America that they would pay 2 or 3 times that much for citizenship if they could afford it.
Well, I hope.
So I think it's genius.
We need the money. I think so you're genius. Finish up. Give us our last word.
If I was an island nation, I'd be selling citizenship. That would be my number one export. Would be selling citizenship, giving them better tax exempts, deregulation, all that kind of stuff.
You heard it here, folks. Hostile dysfunction. Thank you